I think it's also important to realize where we can make a difference in our lives and
Absolutely.
not get too bummed out by day-to-day things that we can't impact.
Welcome back to another episode of Queerpreneurs Unleashed. I'm your host, Dustyn Baulkham, pronouns he, him, and I'm currently on the traditional ancestral territory of the Silk Okanagan people. And thrilled to welcome Alex from Somm Zero today. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Dustyn. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So I would like to start and get to know people a bit better. Tell us a little bit about yourself personally.
Yeah, okay. I'm Alex. My pronouns are he, him, cis gay man. And I've been in Canada for about 4 years now. I moved from England back in 2020. A really fun time to move to a new country mid-pandemic. Yeah, and my business is Somm Zero. We are a trio of sommeliers here in the Okanagan in Kelowna. And our business is focused on distributing premium non-alcoholic wine, beer and spirits across Canada with a mission to expand and advocate more inclusive hospitality, give people better choice and availability of non-alcoholic options wherever they are.
Beautiful. And what made you move to Canada in the middle of a pandemic?
The UK was a bit shit at that time, to be fair. But my partner and I, my husband Tom, who is a family physician here in the Okanagan, we had always decided that we always had a plan to move to a new country and to start a new life together out here. We considered a couple of places, maybe New Zealand or Australia, for example, but BC was very high on the list. So we actually came out on our honeymoon in 2019. And a little bit of a research trip, I guess, as well. Fell in love with the place. So, the rest is kind of history. It's a beautiful place to live. We definitely feel very fortunate to have found this place and call it home.
Yeah. And I feel like of all the places during the pandemic, BC was in the middle, not super locked down, but also not super free. So it was a nice happy medium.
It definitely was. And we always planned to come here before the pandemic started. We just didn't want the pandemic to mess up our plans. So I think we were fortunate in as much as being a medical professional. I guess the government of Canada prioritized medical professionals at that time for obvious reasons. And so we were able to keep our immigration on track. I think thanks to Tom being in medicine. I was less useful in that regard. I was very much the admin guy behind everything. Sure. But my profession found a new career since moving to Canada, actually. That represented an opportunity for me to do something new.
Yeah, I think anytime a physician wants to move to Canada, they're always like, yes, please. Like, we always need more doctors, especially family doctors, because there always seems to be a shortage.
Exactly. Yeah, there still is. And I think there will be for a while, but at least they're trying their best to bring some more into the province. So that's great news.
For sure. And what was your previous career?
I worked in project management in telecoms, infrastructure, installation work for the US military, for energy companies, working offshore, lots of travel, building communication towers and communication sites all around the world. So lots of varied day-to-day work, but I didn't exactly have a strong passion for telecoms in years gone by, but always loved wine and food and hospitality. And I think moving to Canada was the first time that I lived in a place where there was a big, vibrant wine industry, and just took that opportunity to try something new and start again in another career of which I have a lot more interest and passion.
That's great. It's fine. I'm used to that. I used to do corporate work in banking, so I get the whole journey out of it, and doing your own thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think anyone that's left corporate, I don't generally hear people say they miss it. Sometimes they might say they miss a generally paycheck and maybe benefits, but that's a limit on typically what's missed.
Yes, absolutely. We always take some good stuff from our past careers and past lives and transfer them into whatever we're going to do next. But there are certainly things that we don't miss. And I think setting our own agenda is definitely a huge benefit.
Absolutely.
Of starting your own business. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to get into the business, but I still want to talk a little bit more personally, because I always like to talk a bit about people's coming outs and what that looks like. Because for some, it was just another day in the life. And for others, there's different stories to it. And I think it's important to highlight those so that queer people that maybe aren't out or are in different stages of their life can hear about it, that life does get better afterwards. If you don't mind sharing, would love to talk a bit about your kind of coming out journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Everyone's journeys are individual. Everyone's different. Um, there are obviously shared common themes that unite us through all of that. But yeah, we all have our own unique circumstances. And I grew up in southwest Wales, which is quite a rural area that was very much a very metro focused. I had three straight brothers. Everyone played rugby. The school I went to was not a particularly diverse place. The community I grew up in, there was not very many positive examples of gay people living happy lives. It was, in that regard, it was challenging as I was growing up and realizing more and more about who I am. And yeah, it took me a long time actually to stop hiding that from myself, for sure. And I'm sure many people can uh, relate to that. But my coming out journey did take quite a long time. It wasn't until I had left where I grew up and went to university in Cardiff in Wales, the capital city, that I really started being more truthful with who I was and with finding people with similar outlooks and open minds, and finding spaces where I felt comfortable to start exploring that side of my life and who I was. And that was also where and when I met my current husband. And so, yeah, he was a little bit further along in his coming out journey at that time. And so yeah, it was pretty special because as difficult and challenging as it was to try and keep some things on the down low, other things not, with different friends and family, trying to dance that dance, which thankfully is no longer the case. But I was trying to juggle many different aspects of my life at that time, through into, my career as well. And I think for a long time, I wasn't necessarily in a very healthy mental space, trying to be different versions of myself in different places. And I think that making changes in my life professionally definitely helped me step into who I am personally. So that was a big part of my journey. I was lucky enough to have a very loving family who had a very positive, loving reaction. I know that's not always the case for everybody. Yeah, so I definitely appreciate that. And yeah, lots of amazing friends around me for sure. Good. And I think we all shed different people out of our lives at various times. And I think coming out, or that journey, is an extension of that process. And so with the ultimate aim of living our authentic lives. And so I definitely feel that that is what I'm doing now. And yeah, it took me a little while to get there with some challenges on the way, but here we are.
Yeah. I appreciate sharing that. I know, to your point, a lot of queer people live double lives in a sense for a period of life until they're able to safely come out. And it's different for everyone. And it can be super challenging, or for some we build some of these challenges up in our head because we're just scared.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it's valid, especially with the environment right now and what's going on in politics and that dumpster fire.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting in that you like to think that we are moving, or we've come so far, we're moving to good places, and then you realize that we can't take any of that for granted, that it's a continued effort to spread positivity and good vibes and love everywhere, because sometimes we get reality checks on how far we've come in politics and other places, which is unfortunate. But I think it's also important to realize where we can make a difference in our lives, and not get too bummed out by day-to-day things that we can't impact, and just try and make, I think, positive decisions in our lives, I think, in the media communities around us. And that just spreads, I think.
Yeah. So let's shift gears. Let's talk about the business now. So Somm Zero. So how did it come to be?
Like I said, moving to Canada, I dived into the wine industry and started working in different wineries, restaurants, hotels, and set about doing my sommelier accreditation and my wine studies, working my way up through, just finished the final level 4, the WSET diploma in wines. So the last few years, just diving into a new profession and learning to love hospitality and the people connection side of things. I think that's where my skill sets have really shined, and where I've really found a passion, and appreciating how wine can bring everyone together and be a part of those shared moments and memories. So that's a pretty cool thing. And I think learning more about wine, about viticulture, vineyards, winemaking, appreciating the full picture with all the different people involved and what it takes has really kind of helped me understand and appreciate and love wine for what it is. So I guess probably about a couple of years ago. So my partner is pretty much sober, and my best friend and friends and other family members have gone entirely sober too. So more and more people in my life had been realizing that alcohol wasn't necessarily a positive piece of their lives, which I think it opens our eyes when we see firsthand how much of a struggle it can be for those around us that want to make positive change. And then they're experiencing lots of challenges when it comes to feeling included, feeling considered equally, finding good options for themselves on the menus or when they go to parties or weddings. And I think having lots of people close in my life going on those journeys in the past couple of years coincided with me really developing my appreciation and love for hospitality. And it made it very clear to me that there was this huge gap. There was an area where a lot of people in the wine industry and in hospitality were falling short. And there was a huge section of people that were being overlooked and underserved in lots of ways, not being considered equally. And I think that I left a job here at a local winery about 18 months ago. And it was around about that time that I started experimenting more and more with non-alcoholic wine or de-alkalized wine. Up to that point, up to that point, I think it had been, like many people in my profession, had not given it a fair amount of consideration. And I think finding one or two wines that I thought were actually pretty good helped me feel like there was going to be a lot more. And I set about trying to sample as many as I could from all around the world. So really to understand this market category with the view of wanting to bring together a solid collection and make some really great non-alc options way more available for people. And so just set Somm Zero up about 18 months ago with that plan, with that intention. And brought on board a couple of other Somms and friends into the picture. And we've just been busy ever since.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like the last 12 to 18 months have been such a huge shift in non-alcoholic options. I think I told you earlier, right? I'm at 19 months now, actually, since I last seriously drank. I think I have 2 sips of tasters since then, but my initial goal was 4 months, because they say 3 months to regenerate your liver after you stop drinking. And then it just kept extending. And now with our events, like both Elle and I, who work a lot together, don't drink. So it's easy to go to Kamloops, do an event, and then drive home afterwards, where previously we'd always get a hotel because we'd have a couple drinks. And we're either too buzzed to drive or too tired after having a few drinks. Even doing events and not having liquor in terms of liability and insurance and those things, even just like on the business side of things, are great. And now going out, I feel like there's so many more options when you go to restaurants, from mocktails to beers I feel like an easy one, that there's really good options. And wine's getting there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wine it's been behind for sure. And it's catching up, which is great. And you're right. It is really encouraging to see that more and more there are options available for people. And that's part of our mission too, is to keep that going. And our main focus is wine as sommeliers. And so wine, as you've correctly identified, has been the one kind of category of drinks that just hasn't really taken off in the non-alc space as quickly as beer and spirits, mocktails or zero proof cocktails. So yes, we've got a lot of work to do finding that good stuff and bringing it to people, but it's a fun job. It really is. Yeah. And when you do connect the right wine with the right people, it's pretty fun to do that. And yet, to your point, I think more and more of us are appreciating or understanding that sometimes the way we want to live our lives, the things we want to achieve, are done much better without alcohol in the picture at times, whether that's like for a moment in time, you've got study or work or a project to do, or whether that's a longer term picture. There's this big sober spectrum out there. Everyone falls on it somewhere, and that it's not static either. It can change a lot. So it's just meeting everyone where they're at, and making sure that wherever that is at that time, that there's some good options for people, so that at these events like you're talking about, that the welcome wine, that there's great options for you. From the second you step into an event, that you've got great non-alc sparkling, and throughout that event that you feel like you've got just as great options as everyone else that's going there, whether that's a party, wedding, a corporate event, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it makes our lives a lot easier when people like yourself, and congratulations on your sober journey.
Thank you.
But yeah, it makes it a lot easier for you to live the life you want to live when you do have those great options. You don't feel like separate from everyone else, right?
Yeah, exactly. I remember the first few times like going to events and people like, oh, am I okay drinking? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. Like, I'm not worried about that. If I couldn't be in the space, I wouldn't be in the space. And it was my choice to go down this. I think one place I'm not as frequent as I used to be, but like airplanes is where I feel like they're still quite far behind on options. Like they just got liquor or pop. It's kind
Yes,
of,
I know. And we are trying our best. We're like, hey,
yeah,
knocking on the door for Air Canada and WestJet
yeah,
and others to say, hey, we've got some good non-alc options. We can put them in a can for you, whatever you want to do. But yeah, you're right. They definitely are a little bit behind.
yeah,
Let's hope that they catch up a little bit. But
totally.
there are a lot of places that are still very much behind in their offerings. So plenty of places that we need to improve upon.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know you mentioned briefly about on your mission side of things, but I'm curious if your queer identity has shaped your business values or culture in any way.
Yes, I think so. I think it can't not shape the business, because business is made of people and we are all shaped by our experiences. Absolutely. And so going through my own personal journey as a gay man, I think definitely instilled or brought out a certain resilience or strength within myself that I think all of us experience in various ways when we go through that journey. And that resilience and strength definitely has been a part of my business journey too. I think we definitely need to dig deep for those two things sometimes with business. And yeah, definitely that's been a part of my journey for sure. I think also authenticity is a big part of it too. And I talked a little bit about my coming out journey and how that has led to me finding a more authentic version of myself. And I think authenticity is really, it's key. I think being free from shame, and I think being free from a lot of things that undermine our self-confidence help us step into a place of confidence in business too. And so I think how we conduct ourselves, being authentic, and how we do business with different people, I think a lot of that is shaped by our journey as queer people for sure. And then for me, I think I talked a little bit about our business mission being focused very much on equality and inclusivity in terms of beverage offering and events. And I do feel like a lot of that passion for me personally with including everyone and treating everyone equally and giving everyone equal consideration, I think the reason why that resonates and that's why it's so important to me as a principle does stem from my experience growing up, and inclusion and equality being two things that are so ingrained in our journey as gay people and the experiences that we go through. I think that definitely those values shine through in business. Probably also community is a big part of business, and I think that word definitely means a lot to queer people, and understanding what it means to find your people and to respect different communities locally and how you can be a part in those and connect with people in community locally and more widely, I think is important too. So yeah, I would say that yeah, definitely, you know, my journey as a queer person has positively influenced business in lots of ways for sure.
That's great. Have you, on the journey so far, have you experienced any discrimination or bias for being gay in business?
It's a good question. And I was thinking about that the other day, and it's hard to know, isn't it? Because I think as a cis man, white cis man, that I've had a much easier journey in some ways because it's not
Yeah.
always so obvious that I'm gay or
Right.
different or in a minority. And that isn't the truth for a lot of other people in the queer communities. It's hard for me to know for sure. We don't know whether we've missed opportunities because people's bigotry or prejudice. It's not always that obvious to us. Possibly, probably. I haven't really experienced too much direct negativity or conflict in the business that I do, but I think
Right.
that's probably because the industry that I'm in isn't really one where it's set up that way too often. And I think also when you're an entrepreneur, you do you do get to choose a lot of the time the kind of people you want to associate with and the people you want to
True.
work with. And yeah, that's been a benefit of being an
Right.
entrepreneur, is that you decide some direction of your business and the kind of people that you do or don't want to work with. And so it is important to choose those people wisely.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't want to work with or for anyone that did have those prejudice views. Yeah, it's hard to know for sure, but I don't have a lot of day-to-day interactions where I feel like I am being discriminated against per se. So yeah, fortunate in that regard, because I know that's not the reality for everybody.
Totally. And I like asking it because there are certain industries where it's just, yeah, no one has any issues. And then there's some who have a lot. So I think it's good to highlight the variety on that aspect and I guess the bandwidth of it.
Yeah, there's minor stuff. I think working in wine and doing tasting and interacting with different people, you do get, if it's a big group of young females that are on a bachelorette party or something and you're serving them, and then a couple of them might really be trying to angle in a certain like romantic way with you. And then you do have to break them down gently or break it to them gently. And sometimes they've had less than positive reactions that are leave a little bit to be desired at times. But yeah, aside from that, nothing too major.
That's good. I had that a couple of weeks ago when we were doing our Indigenous showcase, where a couple of women were like trying to hone in. I'm like, wrong tree. Like, you're not even bi. I'm like, nope, I'm definitely gay. So like, oh, that's a shame.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Maybe for you, but not for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but so I know what you're talking about. But what's been your biggest challenge so far on your entrepreneurial journey?
Cash flow. Like with all businesses, cash flow.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Wouldn't it be great? As a startup, we all have to contend with big ambitions and reality checks quite often. And I think, yeah, access to cash flow, although you do have to get creative and you have to make every dollar count for sure. And I think that has been one of the biggest challenges for sure.
Yeah.
I think working with two other guys on a very equal level is a huge strength and a benefit to our business. And it really is, it's what makes our business unique and has been a huge factor in our success. But when you want to drive something forward and it's your business idea that you want to go certain directions, it can be a blessing and a curse sometimes to be checked by two other business partners. And so there's definitely been challenges in learning how to work together in that space and how to build on our strengths and then try and resolve some of our differences. So there's definitely been challenges with that, but only challenges that I think it will make us stronger in the long run. But yeah, it is difficult sometimes working with other people closely when you have a very distinctive vision of what you feel is the right way forward.
Absolutely. Well, to your comment around cash flow too, I was having a discussion with a friend who's also in the event sphere, and she was talking with some other people more in I think the media side of things, but how even established businesses right now are feeling like we're in a bit of a startup phase again. With my company, right before the pandemic, we were at that point of like, this is our first year, we're gonna actually make some money. And because everything was trajecting in the right direction, and then obviously COVID hit and shit the bed for us. And then now I feel like I'm back in that startup environment because people are different and now the economy is going the way it is. And so you feel like you're always in a bit of a startup kind of phase.
Yeah, I definitely identify with that. I am in startup phase, but I know what you mean. It's challenging. And I think you do learn a lot on the fly. And I think it is a tough environment right now. The economy is like not in the best place. Who knows which direction it's going to go. And there have been lots of challenges in business and the economy recently. So yeah, it's definitely a time when we all need to support each other in the best ways we can, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So on your journey so far, I'm curious if you have a distinct moment or like a success story that really resonates with you on the journey so far.
I think that there's been a lot for sure. There's been a lot. And I think it's really important. I'm starting this business a little bit later. I'm approaching 40 and I guess I have almost some wisdom and years behind myself, maybe.
I'm almost 42. I get it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think my point is that I allow myself moments to stand back and actually appreciate what I've achieved, what me and the team have achieved, and to do that pat on the back. I think it's really important to celebrate ourselves when we can get caught up in all the day-to-day challenges. And sorry, my dog's just
no, it's okay.
disagreeing with me with all of our day-to-day challenges. And I think it is important to take a moment to reflect on the accomplishments that we've done. I think starting a business from scratch, and I think landing that first few pallets of wine from France, for example, and getting it into our pop-up bar and getting it onto our website and getting it into all these different Michelin star restaurants and things, and just seeing everything, I think, come together from a very early stage and then right through to getting wine poured in front of people in Canada, de-alcoholized wine, was really cool. I think it's great to see, oh yeah, I made that happen. Teamwork, and we had a plan in place and we executed it, and here it is. People are enjoying the product. So that feels really good. I think for me personally, one of my biggest accomplishments was just starting out to begin with. I think being bold and taking the time to step out and having the courage to do so out of my comfort zone, starting the business, and I think putting myself out there with an idea it is scary. It is scary to start a business. And I think that no matter how confident you might be as a person, we all have these doubts and fears that we have to face up to and say, fuck it, I'm going to try it anyway. And I think that doing that, just stepping out and giving it a try, I have to give myself credit for that. So yeah, that's a big accomplishment, which all entrepreneurs have done. So everyone should be proud of themselves for that, I think.
I agree. And that kind of answers one of my last questions, which is always, excuse me, telling a future entrepreneur what, some advice or whatnot about just say, fuck it, do it. That's my motto.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know Somm Zero is not specifically focused on the queer community, but I'm curious how supportive the queer community has been of the business.
Yeah. It's a good question. And I think that we have directly and indirectly, I guess, connected with various people in the queer community. We obviously, me and a lot of the people that I work with or contractors that we've hired or worked with or collaborated with have been in the queer community. And I think that creating a sober bar was all about creating a safe space for people as well. And a lot of the customers and people that we connected with in that particular scenario and since in different events are all from the queer community as well. So I think that it's a fact that alcohol dependence, abuse or misuse or addiction disproportionately affects the queer community. I'm speaking from personal experience where for lots of reasons that we probably don't have time to delve too far into, but and various things in the past that we all go through, alcohol is often linked with that. And so for sure, looking at the wider picture, being a part of the mission to bring a lot more options available for sober people and to give people products, if it suits them, that can help them balance their lives. That's definitely one aspect to it, I think. And then we love, like some of my favorite customers in the world are definitely in the queer community, and connecting with them and sharing the stories with them and building those relationships, the customer relationships, has been one of my favorite parts of business. And then we love getting involved in local initiatives like Pride, for example, is a big one. And I know there are good things and bad things that people have to say about various Pride projects, but I personally feel that overall the importance of them is huge in our community. And so being a non-alc vendor at Pride and showing up and plastering that all over our newsletters and our social media is really important to me. And yeah, there's no more fun place in the world than a Pride festival. Definitely, being there with the community and people is a huge part of what we're about. So I want to do a lot more of that. And I think that there's always scope to interact with the queer community a lot more, to build connections with a lot more people in that space. That's why I think this podcast and projects like this are brilliant initiative, and it's a privilege to be here, and hopefully from these kinds of conversations you never know where things are going to go.
That's true, especially when it's out on YouTube or whatnot. Anyone can see it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know fairly earlier on, or you're fairly early in the entrepreneur journey, but I'm curious if you have a long-term vision of any kind of legacy you want to leave behind with Somm Zero.
Yeah, one that we won't see actually, which is weird, I think, because our ambition, our mission, and our whole legacy is that at the moment, our mission is to bring non-alcoholic into the mainstream, much more
Right.
so, make it way more available and ready, and something that we don't even really need to be talking about that mission of inclusive hospitality anymore because it's done. And that
Right.
it's just the same way that restaurants might consider vegetarianism now. It's not even a thing. We just make sure that you have great vegetarian options on the menu. It should be the same with non-alcoholic options too. And so when it's just second nature to be making sure that when you're thinking about any kind of events or any kind of situation where you need to be serving people, that you give the correct consideration to the non-alcoholic options. But yeah, my legacy I think would be pushing that until the point where it isn't really a mission anymore, and then it's just about continuing to find amazing options for people as that category improves in quality all the time, especially in the wine. So yeah, and I think that yeah, that would be a pretty cool legacy to say, yeah, I was a part of that kind of change, that movement. That would be very cool. But yeah, I think
Love
that's
it.
it really.
That's great. One thing when you made the comment about Wanda that made me think about back from our pre-call was around people have this perception sometimes that, oh, there's no alcohol in it, it should be cheaper. And I think we talked a bit about wine in the process and how it actually is more expensive almost to produce non-alcoholic wine.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. What an educational journey we always have to go on with our consumers. Yeah, no, you're right. It is a commonly held misconception that de-alcoholized wine should be cheaper because it doesn't have alcohol. But you're right, for the fact that it doesn't, but most of the time did, is proof that there's additional steps in that process to creating that wine that require more manpower, more labor and equipment, more skill set, technology to do it well, especially. And usually it's on a smaller scale with volume as well. There's lots of reasons contributing to why good quality de-alkalized wine should be a lot more expensive. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that there are those kind of widely held beliefs, rightly or wrongly, that non-alcoholic products shouldn't have or shouldn't be the same price point. So you do have to contend with that and make sure that you try and deliver value for everybody across the
Right.
whole spectrum. And I think that that's a big part of our business, is trying to do things as efficiently as possible to keep the price point as affordable and value driven
Right.
as we can, and also to ensure that that these great products are accessible to everybody. So it is about that inclusivity as well. There's no point in having like your only options if you want good quality are like way expensive and out of the reach of a lot of people. That's not really encouraging inclusivity or movement. So I think keeping price points realistic is a big part of it. But you're
Yeah.
right, it does often cost a lot more to make these products than their maybe equivalent alcoholic counterparts.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'd be interesting. Like I'm excited for more options for wine because there's the taste of wine that I do miss and I just
Yeah, were
haven't
you a
found
wine
it.
lover back in the
Yes, I
day?
love my red.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and the reds are the hardest to do
Yeah.
well, de-alkalized.
Yes.
We have some really fantastic stuff on the way. We only have a couple of reds in our portfolio right now because our quality threshold needs to be met before we're
Of
happy to
course.
sell and serve. And we haven't found that many reds in the market to date that have met that.
Right.
But fortunately, more and more are coming. So yes, we have some stuff. I have some good Christmas presents for you, Dustyn. So
Amazing.
let's watch this space. Yeah.
I tried some when you had the Sobar going on at Just Peach. I remember I tried some red and it was okay. It still wasn't, like I said, it wasn't there, but
Yeah.
better than some of the other options that I'd tried.
Yeah. And there is a little bit of an educational aspect from our perspective too, in helping people understand that if they're looking for an exact carbon copy of an alcoholic red wine, they will never find that with
Right.
de-alkalized red wine because it doesn't have alcohol in it. And I know that sounds really obvious, but it's a kind of the structural components and a lot of the characteristics will be different because
Absolutely.
there isn't any alcohol. It doesn't mean that you can't craft a beautiful red wine that doesn't have alcohol in it. But if you're looking for exact like, then quite often you're going to be disappointed, I think,
Yeah.
if that's your mission anyway.
And that's it, right? We just got to retrain our taste buds to
Yeah.
understand what the new taste is going to be like. So
Yeah, honestly. And I was drinking a really lovely bottle of de-alkalized red wine last night with my spaghetti, and I've been doing sober October this month, so going completely
okay.
sober all month, which has been
Yeah.
really cool. You know, I was without getting too dorky and professional about palate and assessment, it was interesting for me to enjoy that wine last night and think about how I was enjoying it in a very different way than I might have a couple months ago. And yeah, it's a very cool subject when you start thinking about your palate and how it changes a lot, especially as you get more and more experience in tasting these different de-alcoholized wines. And now for me, and a lot of people say this as they explore non-alcoholic options, that if they do, and a lot of people, I think 80% of people that are buying non-alc are also buying alcohol too. So it's not like a binary choice in one way or the other. There is this whole big spectrum for people to choose from. And I think a lot of people have said since they've been drinking less alcohol, when they do have an alcoholic beverage, if the alcohol isn't done well with that beverage, like if it's a wine, for example, and it's not really well integrated and it's not well made and it's really boozy, it stands out really badly, and it ruins the drink for everyone, ruins the experience. And so I think definitely we notice alcohol more when we start removing it from our palate in various ways. So it's a really interesting topic that probably all the cork dorks would dive into and talk a bit more about, but I don't want to bore everyone.
Cork dork, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
I love it. I want to shift us now into my, like, call it my lightning round or this or that. So it's just, I give you two options and you pick one. It's not meant to be a long thought process or any explanation, just one or the other. And it's just, I find it fun to get to know people and what they like and what they don't like. So dinner at a fancy restaurant or a home cooked meal?
Dinner at a fancy restaurant for me, probably.
Yeah.
Especially if I don't want to be the one cooking either. Yeah.
Multiple short vacations in a year or one long vacation?
Multiple short.
Yeah. How about Mexico or Hawaii?
Mexico.
Okay. Would you rather go out and watch a movie or go enjoy live music?
Music.
Yeah. Spain or Portugal?
That's a really hard one. I think I would probably say Portugal.
Vancouver or Victoria?
Vancouver.
Vancouver or Toronto?
I don't know Toronto that well yet. I'm going to go Vancouver. Yeah, I think stick with Vancouver. Yeah.
Okay. Are you an early riser? Do you like sleep in?
Early, very early.
Yeah. If you had the option of either of these, would you rather drive to a place or fly?
Do you mean like on a plane, or just if I could fly myself?
Well, fly in a plane, yes. If you're going somewhere and you have either option, you can drive or fly. Which would you pick?
Fly.
Okay.
Yeah, especially in Canada. Are you kidding me? It's a 6-day journey. No thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it's fun if it's like an exploratory, but
yeah, depends who's in the car with me as well.
That's true. Yeah.
And who?
Yeah. Audiobooks or real books?
Real books.
Yeah. On your business side of things, do you use more debit or credit cards?
Ooh, probably about the same for both.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. How about a bank or a credit union for the business?
For the business, we have a RBC account, so I guess boring commercial stuff. But we do have some finance stuff going on with a more local community-based organization too.
Yeah. It's curious. For me, it's curious, and that's why I ask these, because every business entrepreneur is a bit different in terms of whether it's big corporate or not. So for me, it's more of a curiosity thing. Yeah. Because I have a bit of both too, but it's just...
Yeah, and I would say RBC, but we hate them. So no offense, RBC, but you have not helped us in any way. There you go. So it was just because all three of us business partners had RBC accounts, so it made it easier in some ways, but they definitely do not help the little guy as much as I feel they should or could. Yeah, for sure.
I agree. I feel like I know the answer to this, but dog or cat?
The answer to that one. Yeah. Dogs all the way.
How about Spotify or Apple Music?
Spotify.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Why not?
What's your favorite type of music?
My favorite type of music is gay disco music, probably. Yeah. Anything that's camp and fun and it gives a good vibe. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's the first time I've had anyone answer that, but I love it.
Okay.
How about favorite time of year?
I love Christmas. Yeah, okay. Christmas is awesome, just around the corner. So that's a very cool time for me. Yeah, summer's good too.
Yeah.
Especially here, now that we have a summer in Canada. Like where I used to live, it rained all year round. Yeah. Christmas was a good time of year in the UK. I
Yeah.
think summer's good in the Okanagan when it's not on fire. So
Yes, and we had a good summer this last year, so
yes, we did
really
for
good summer.
weather. Yeah.
What's your favorite place to travel for vacation?
My favorite place is probably Iceland, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I've coming up on 14 times visiting Iceland now. It's
Okay.
quite easy to get to from England. So it
True.
was, and not too expensive to get there. And then we've learned how to live keep it valuable, keep it cheap while we were there. So we figured out all the tips and tricks to do. Plus, it's just about the nature. So you just hire a rental car and you don't need to do anything fancy in Iceland. So get
Yeah.
there and just explore. And then it's halfway between England and Canada. So going back and forth between the two since I've moved here has meant that I've been able to do some layovers and stop there. So have you been to Iceland?
No, I was literally just thinking that's on my bucket list is Iceland.
Yeah.
And so now I know who to ask when I eventually go.
Come with me
Okay.
or I
Yeah.
can give you some really good tips. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
No, me and my husband love
Amazing.
it. It's a beautiful place.
Good. Yeah. I've heard great things. I don't know a ton of people that have gone. I think you're only like maybe the second or third person that I know that has actually gone. So
Yeah, it's a cool place and
yeah.
getting easier to get to, but I suppose that has a downside too. In some
True.
ways.
Yeah. So I have a last kind of few questions just to wrap this up nicely. And one I would like to ask is how you handle work-life balance and self-care as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, good question. And it's actually a very important question. I think I'm very lucky to have a partner who really values self-care and being and will make sure that I seek that for myself and encourage and support me to find balance and well-being within my life. So that's definitely helpful. I think that my dogs are a big part of that too. You know what it's like. Dogs bring harmony to everyone's lives, and I think they help.
Yeah.
Like just moving here during COVID, like as crazy as the world got, having my dogs there, the world was the same for them. And so whenever you need to take a moment just to focus on what's good in life and not think about all the outside stuff, dogs do a really good job of grounding you in that moment, I find.
Yeah.
So hanging out with my dogs, who are clearly my best friends, that really helps with balance in my life as an entrepreneur. I think yoga too, I'm getting back into that. I've dipped in and out of yoga various times in my life, but whenever I am doing yoga, I'm a happier person and my back does not hurt. So I think, taking time without my phone on, just being in that moment. And I think that's a really important part of physical and mental well-being. Yoga is helpful. And then I guess redressing my relationship with alcohol too has definitely been a part of my business life. And that's definitely helped achieve more balance in my personal life too.
Absolutely. That's great. Do you have any favorite books or podcasts or anything that you listen to that supported your entrepreneurial journey?
Well, I talked a little bit about one of the defining moments for me was obviously getting started, which sounds obvious, but stepping out and finding the confidence to pivot from a different position in my career to starting a business. And I actually was very lucky to have a wonderful lady called Janice Vogel. She is a life coach or business coach or a coach, however you want to call it. And it was around about that time that I connected with her, going through a big change in my life. And she really helped create space for me to build that confidence and to step out and pivot and change. And so she does lots of blog posts and puts lots of great material out there online and in person too. So yeah, that was definitely a part of my entrepreneurial journey that I think was very influential. And I love following what she's doing. She's helping other people pivot and change in their careers as well. So yeah, that would be one that I could think of, but I don't typically listen to too many podcasts right now. Otherwise.
Fair enough. So I know I mentioned you answered this earlier, but I still like to wrap things up is what advice you would give to a queer individual who's considering entrepreneurship?
Well, I think, I think it is a really good question. And I think that it's fantastic. Like I said, this project's really cool for one of these reasons is I think it's really great for younger people especially, but anyone really, to see that you can be a successful or committed business person and be queer. And I think it's important for us to support each other in that mission and to showcase positive examples of queer people succeeding in business. And actually, this podcast shines a light on that. And I think that all of us should take that as our mission for sure. So I think that is a big part of that, inspiring younger people, younger queer people to get started, is just to show that it can be done. I think my advice to them would be dig deep and use that resilience and that strength that we all experience, or that we all find as queer people, where we've all gone on various different journeys, but there is that common thread. So I think use that to your advantage, and use that to help you in business for sure. And just be authentic, be yourself, be a good person. It really does make a difference in business to be a good person. And karma is a thing. Yep. So treat everyone the way you want to be treated, which is a great motto to live by. And so that's very true for business as well. And sometimes it's worth not taking a job or not doing a thing if it's going to compromise who you are or the kind of person you want to be or do business with. So stay true to your values for sure. Yeah.
Great. Love it. And how do people find you?
They can search for Somm Zero online, SOM, like sommelier. They can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all of that stuff. Beautiful. We're at like every local event ever. We see you everywhere, which is great. And so just search for us, me, John, or Bobby. You can send me an email, alex@sommzero.com. There's an easy way to get hold of me, or shoot us any DMs on Instagram or whatever. So we're here.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much. Do you have anything else you wanted to add that we maybe didn't touch on about Somm Zero or anything?
I don't think so. I just wanted to repeat again, thanks for having me, and thanks for bringing this project to life. I think it's great.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for being part of Queerpreneurs Unleashed. I appreciate your time and insight today, and look forward to seeing you around at more events soon.
Thanks, Dustyn.
Great. Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it.